3:51 a.m., December 29th, 2025. The Valdai residence. Putin's billion-dollar inner sanctum is currently blind silent and smoking in the snow. 95 drones just delivered a New Year's message that the Kremlin's elite air defenses couldn't stop. Secondary radars are slag. Command antennas are gone. Russia burned 100 million in missiles to catch 91 of them, but the 4 that hit just turned the most secure site on Earth into a billion-dollar embarrassment. The myth of invincibility didn't just crack, it was checkmated by a pile of carbon fiber and a few lines of code. The Dolgiye Bordy residence in Valdai isn't just a luxury retreat, it's the symbolic heart of the Russian regime. It's where Vladimir Putin hosts the inner circle and makes the decisions that move the world's maps. It's a multi-billion-dollar fortress hidden in the frozen pines protected by the most dense air defense network on the planet. The timing wasn't an accident. It was the night of December, just days before the new year, while high-stakes peace talks were heating up on the international stage. Ukraine decided to send a New Year's gift that couldn't be ignored. Moscow called it provocative behavior and immediately scrambled to review their negotiating stance. But for Kiev, this wasn't about terror, it was about a strategic audit. They wanted to prove that no matter how many billions you spend on a Fortress Russia narrative, a clever enough opponent can still find a way to get inside the house. The challenge was massive. The Valdai site is wrapped in what military analysts call an impenetrable bubble. You've got S-400 Triumph batteries, the heavy hitters capable of tracking 300 targets from hundreds of miles away. Then you've got the Panzer S-1 systems, which act like high-tech shotguns to swat anything that gets close. And on top of that, the Krasuka 4 electronic warfare units are there to turn the sky into a digital desert where GPS and radio signals go to die. On paper, anything flying toward this site should be detected, jammed, and vaporized before it even sees a pine tree. But Ukraine didn't just send a few drones. They sent a multi-layer saturation swarm of 95 units. This wasn't a random gaggle of hobby planes, it was a 3-part symphony of chaos. Never before had the chaos involving Beaver FP-1 and Palianitsia caused such panic in Russia. The game was about to start and Russia was about to find out that its perfect defense had a costly blind spot. 2:15 a.m., the Novgorod region. While the rest of the world is dreaming of New Year's resolutions, a nightmare is unfolding 40 feet above the Valdai snow. 95 shadows are screaming through the frozen pines at 140 miles per hour. This isn't just a flight. It's a high-speed game of don't touch the floor with the treetops. At this altitude, you aren't just avoiding radar. You're effectively invisible, hiding in the geographic blind spots of the hills. Suddenly, the silence in the Russian command center at Dolgiye Bordy is shattered. The S-400's Big Bird radar, the $600 million eye in the sky, explodes with activity. 60 high-priority targets just bloomed on the screens. Thanks to the Lundberg lens reflectors on those cheap Beaver decoys, a plastic drone now has the radar signature of a full-sized MiG-29 fighter. To the Russian operators, it looks like the entire Ukrainian Air Force just decided to crash Putin's party. It's like mistaking a fast-moving curveball for a runaway freight train. You don't think, you just swing the bat. The Russian response is immediate and violent. They activate the Krasuka 4, the heavyweight champion of electronic warfare. This truck-mounted beast begins pumping out a wall of high-power RF noise designed to turn the local GPS and radio spectrum into a digital blizzard. This is broadband jamming at its most brutal. It's like someone trying to have a conversation while a jet engine is idling in their living room. The Russians are feeling confident. They watch as 15 of the decoy drones, stripped of their brains to save weight, lose their grip on reality. They spiral out of control, crashing harmlessly into the pines. To the control crew at the S-400 battery, the strike appears to be over before it even begins. They think they've just shut down the show. However, that's exactly what the Ukrainian planners wanted them to think. 80 drones remain airborne and the real threat is moving through the static. 20 FP-1 drones just detected the interference and executed a seamless handoff. No GPS, no problem. They've switched to visual terminal mapping. It doesn't need a satellite to tell it where it is, it just looks at the trees and the riverbeds and says, I know exactly where I am. The Krasuka 4 is like a man trying to blind a predator with a flashlight, only to realize the predator sees in infrared. With 80 units still in the fight, the Russian fortress is about to find out that no amount of digital noise can stop an eye that sees through the static. The first layer of defense has been bypassed, but the shotguns are just about to start firing. 2:45 a.m. The quiet part of the mission is officially over. The 45 remaining beaver decoys just executed a coordinated pop-up maneuver, climbing from 40 feet to a vulnerable 500 feet. Suddenly, the night sky over Valdai isn't dark anymore. The Panzer S-1 units, the shotguns of the Kremlin's inner circle, roar to life. We're talking about twin 30mm autocannons pumping out 40 rounds per second. The air is suddenly filled with neon green snakes of tracer fire weaving a wall of lead through the freezing air. It's like high-tech skeet shooting, but the clay pigeons are flying at 150 miles per hour and screaming, "Hit me!" The first beaver decoy takes a direct hit from a 30mm round. The composite frame doesn't just break. It undergoes a significant thermal event, turning into a bright orange fireball that illuminates the forest below for miles. Then another, and another. The Panzer operators are swinging the bat with everything they've got. They switch to their newest toy, the 57E6M mini missiles. These are small, hyper-fast interceptors designed to swarm the swarm. It's a brutal exchange. You see the white-hot streaks of missiles launching from the Panzer racks, intercepting the decoys in mid-air with surgical precision. In just 90 seconds, 35 more decoys are neutralized, vaporized into confetti by a rain of Russian steel. To a casual observer, it looks like Ukraine is getting crazy. Moscow's command center is likely cheering, thinking they're pitching a no-hitter. But look closer. For every $15,000 Beaver drone the Russians kill, they are burning through their limited supply of ready-to-fire missiles. Those Panzer racks only hold 48 of those mini interceptors. Once they're gone, they need a 15-minute reload, and in a drone fight, 15 minutes is an eternity. While the sky is filled with the boom and flash of the sacrificial decoys, the 10 remaining decoys are intentionally scattering, drawing the Russian fire away from the primary approach corridors. The pitcher is throwing 100-mile-per-hour fastballs at the shadows, but he's starting to breathe heavy. He's focused on the fireworks, completely unaware that the real base stealers, the 20 FP-1 and the 15 Palianitsia rocket drones, are using the chaos and the smoke to slide into position. The Panzer units are nearing an overload state. Their computers are struggling to prioritize 10 decoys while their sensors are being blinded by the very fireballs they just created. The air defense bubble is still working, but it's starting to leak. The shotguns are running dry, and the most protected residence on Earth is about to find out that a 95% interception rate is just a fancy way of saying you missed the ones that matter. The fireworks were just the opening act. Now it's time for the closers to take the mound. 2:50 a.m. The fireworks from the decoys are still burning in the sky, but the real predators have just entered the red zone. These are the 20 FP-1 AI cores, the special forces of this mission. While the Russian Krasuka 4 operators are cranking their jamming power to levels that could practically boil a cup of coffee at 100 yards, they're about to learn a very expensive lesson in computer science. The FP-1s don't care about your radio noise. They aren't listening to anything. Each one is a self-contained autonomous robot processing terrain data with the cold, calculated efficiency of an NVIDIA-powered supercomputer. As the electronic blizzard hits them, the onboard AI seamlessly executes a handoff from GPS to visual navigation. It's like a blindfolded hitter suddenly getting bionic 20/20 vision right as the pitcher releases the ball. The AI is looking through its high-res cameras, matching the snowy ridgelines and the curves of the Valdai River against a 3D digital twin stored in its memory. The Russian command center is in a state of digital shock. They're shouting into the void, pumping out enough RF energy to jam every cell phone from Novgorod to Moscow. Yet these 20 dots on the radar aren't flinching. They're weaving through the valleys using 3G maneuvers to mask their approach. It's like watching a Tesla autopilot system navigate a mountain road at 150 miles per hour without any lane lines in a blizzard. This is where the fortress starts to crack. With the Panzer units desperately trying to reload their empty racks, the heavy hitter, the S-400 Triumph, is forced to step in. This is the definition of economic insanity. The Russians are now launching $2 million interceptors to swat $50,000 drones. It's like using a gold-plated sledgehammer to kill a hornet. The sky erupts again. The S-400 missiles' massive 25-foot-long spears of fire scream off their launch pads. The boom is deafening, vibrating the very ground of the presidential residence. The FP-1s respond with distributed intelligence. They don't fly in a line, they swarm, they split. They force the S-400's radar to choose its victims one by one. The math is brutal. Out of the 20 FP-1 units, 16 are neutralized in a desperate million-dollar barrage of S-400 steel. Each collision is a massive kinetic event lighting up the clouds like a second sun. To the Kremlin's defenders, it feels like they're winning. They've knocked out the brain of the attack. However, those 16 drones just did something far more dangerous than hitting a target. They bankrupted the local S-400 inventory. While the Russian operators are busy tracking the debris of the 16 kills, they've lost track of the count. 4 FP-1 units are still in the air, silent and invisible, and they've just punched a hole in the air defense bubble. And right behind them, the 15 Palyonitsia rocket drones have just ignited their turbojets. The closers are on their way, moving at 450 miles per hour. And the Russian pitcher just realized he's out of balls and his arm is starting to give out. The fortress isn't just leaking anymore, it's wide open for the walk-off home run. 2:55 a.m. This is the bottom of the 9th bases loaded, and the Russian pitcher is throwing everything, including his glove, just to save face. The 15 Palyonitsia rocket drones have engaged their turbojets, screaming across the Valdai forest at 450 miles per hour. The sound is a bone-chilling banshee wail that announces the closers have arrived. But don't forget the ghosts. The 4 surviving FP-1 AI cores are still in the mix, and they are playing the most dangerous game of follow the leader in history. While the Palyonitsias are the loud screaming distractions, the FP-1s are acting as the quarterbacks. Their onboard AI is calculating the S-400's reload cycles in real time, looking for that 1 millisecond gap in the fortress walls. The Russian defenders are fighting for their honor, the reputation of the impenetrable bubble. S-400 crews are frantically bypassing safety protocols to fire at targets moving too fast for their standard tracking. Panzer autocannons are glowing red-hot, pumping a desperate curtain of 30mm lead into the sky. It looks like a high-tech laser show from hell. In this final frantic minute, the Russians swing the bat with everything they've got. They manage to neutralize 11 of the Palyonitsias and finally track down the 4 remaining FP-1 AI units, vaporizing them in a series of blinding thermal surges. The Russian command center erupts in cheers. 91 neutralized target is safe. We got the brains. They were so busy celebrating the strikeout that they didn't see the ball already clearing the center field fence. Those 4 FP-1s didn't die for nothing. They were the ultimate decoys. In their final seconds, they masked the 4 remaining Palyonitsias, guiding them into the radar blind spots created by the very explosions of their fallen comrades. The Russians neutralized 91 out of 95, a perfect score on paper. But in the world of strategic strikes, paper doesn't matter. The 4 Palyonitsias that slipped through are now in their terminal dive, aimed with surgical precision. The first 2 Palyonitsias impact the secondary gravestone radar and the main command antennas. There's no massive explosion, just a precise kinetic impact that turns $50 million of sensitive electronics into high-tech slag. In an instant, the billion-dollar fortress is muted. The local air defense network just lost its ears and its voice. The 3rd Palyonitsia makes contact with the auxiliary EW station. The shouting stops. The electronic blizzard that had been blinding the region vanishes, leaving a deafening silence in the airwaves. Ukraine just unscrewed the light bulb of Russia's jamming umbrella. The 4th and final Palyonitsia strikes the backup power system. A significant thermal event ripples through the generator bank, and for a few long, heart-stopping seconds, the lights across the entire Dolgie-Borody complex flicker and die. It wasn't a knockout blow that leveled the building. Ukraine was playing a much smarter game. They didn't want to burn the house down. They wanted to drop the hat of the most protected man in Russia. Moscow can brag about a 95% interception rate all they want, but those 4 timely hits just prove that the inner sanctum is currently blind, silent, and powerless in the Russian winter. The fortress is still standing, but its myth of invincibility just got a 450-mile-per-hour reality check. So the smoke is clearing over the Valdai forest, and the math of this New Year's gift is starting to settle in. On paper, Moscow is shouting from the rooftops that it neutralized 91 out of 95 drones. In any other world, a 95% success rate gets you a trophy. However, in the world of high-stakes strategic strikes, that 4% failure is a total system collapse. First, the direct military impact. By disabling the secondary gravestone radar and those command antennas, Ukraine didn't just break some expensive toys, they effectively muted the residents. To win that 91 drone interception, Russia had to burn through millions of dollars in S-400 and Panzer missiles. This creates what we call a strategic dilemma. Every S-400 battery Moscow pulls from the front lines to protect a presidential retreat is a new hole in the defense of its occupied territories. Ukraine just forced its opponent to choose between protecting the inner sanctum and protecting the battlefield. It's a classic squeeze play, and there are no easy outs. But the real home run here is psychological. This strike shattered the narrative of invincibility. For years, the Kremlin has told the world that its VIP sites are wrapped in an impenetrable bubble of technology. Those 4 timely hits just proved that a billion-dollar fortress can be checkmated by a pile of carbon fiber and some clever AI code. The hat has been dropped, the myth is cracked, and the entire Russian negotiating stance just got a lot more complicated. Now I want to hear from you. If you were the commander of that Russian air defense unit, how would you even begin to stop a swarm that doesn't need GPS and hides in the treetops? Would you pull more S-400s from the front or just hope the next gift isn't aimed at something bigger? Let me know your tactical take in the comments below. And if you want to see the deep dive into the Palyonidsia rocket drone, the Closer, that's currently making Russian engineers lose sleep, stay tuned for our next update. Bye for now.